Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today we are talking about subtracting numbers again, except we're going all the way up to 4 digits. It's exactly the same as regular subtracting with 3 digits or 2 digits, but we're just adding that extra thousands place there today. So let's go ahead and start and talk about what subtracting means. Subtracting means that we are getting smaller. It is the complete opposite of addition. We are going down in numbers. We are not going up. So keep that in your mind today. We are getting smaller. It's going down. We are taking away, minus, subtract. Okay, it's getting smaller. What is subtracting? Well, subtracting is when you find a missing part, okay? We take a total, we subtract part of it, and we find the other missing part. It's the complete opposite of adding, where adding is adding two parts together to get the total. With subtracting, we already have the big number, the total, and we are taking away a missing part, and we're finding the other missing part, okay? So here we have 17 minus 6. We would put 6 in our heads and count up to 17 to find the missing part. So if we put 6 in our heads and count up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That would give us 11, okay? That would be our missing part here. Notice how 17 would be the biggest number in those three. That's because it's the total, and subtracting starts with the big number on top. It starts with the total. We subtract a smaller number from it, and we find the missing part. So, subtracting terms. We need to know the word difference. Everybody say difference. Difference is a word that just means different. We're trying to figure out how the numbers are different. We do that by counting up and finding the difference between those two numbers. The word difference is long, just like the word subtraction is long. So that would help you remember that difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. It is not adding. Difference goes with subtracting, because difference and subtracting are both long words. Add is a very short word, and sum is a very short word. So add and sum go together. Subtracting and difference go together. Now let's talk about what are the main rules for subtracting. The main rule is to put the big number on top every single time. Every word problem, every subtracting problem you write down, put the biggest number on top, because you cannot take away a bigger number from a smaller number. We know that. There has to be more on top so that there's no need to stop. So put that big number on top, minus that second number, minus that part, and line up your ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. The comma is really going to help you stay organized, so make sure you're doing it neatly on your piece of notebook paper. And do you have to show your work? Yes, you do, on every single problem, because there's no way you can subtract a 4-digit number in your head that has to do with regrouping. It's really hard for Miss Weaver to do that in her head, so I know that some of those brains, we can't quite get there yet, and you're not supposed to. You're supposed to show your work, and that's what we're doing today. That way we're always going to get the right answer. All right, let's do our subtracting chant together. It goes, more on top, no need to stop. More on the floor, go next door and borrow some more. Numbers the same, zero's the game. So when we subtract, every time we subtract a place together, we need to think, is there more on top or more on the floor? And we answer that question, and then we know what to do. If there's more on top, there's no need to stop. We can go ahead and subtract. But if there's more on the floor, if there's more below that number, then that means that we have to go next door and borrow, knock, and ask the next door neighbor if we can borrow one from them. So that way we can become a bigger number, and then there can be more on top, so then there's no need to stop. All right, and if the numbers are exactly the same, 2 minus 2, it's going to be 0. Because if you have 2 and you take away 2, it leaves you with 0, leaves you with nothing. So what does that mean to subtract? The main ones that you're going to see in your word problems are how many more or how much more, okay? That phrase means to subtract. It has to have the word more with it, or how much more, how many more. It has to have the word more there, and it means to subtract, because you are comparing those two numbers. And when you are comparing those two numbers, that means you have to take away, okay? That means you have to put the big number on top and take away. So how many more means to subtract. The word left means to subtract, okay? Those are going to be your two main words. You might also see the word change. That means to subtract. Decrease, minus, take away, less, whatever. Any of those words mean to subtract. But the main ones you're going to see is how many more and left. And if you see the words how many, just those two words together, how many doesn't tell you anything. That doesn't tell you anything. It tells you that you need a number, because that could be an adding problem or a subtracting problem. But that word more, how many more, tells you to subtract. The word more tells you to take away, okay? So you got to keep that in your brain. Let's go ahead and talk about subtracting. Okay, this problem we have no regrouping on, so it's going to be a very easy subtraction problem. First, we're going to start in our ones place. We have 5 minus 5. Numbers are the same, so 0 is the game. It's going to be a 0 there. Next, we're going to ask 4 minus 3. Is there more on top or more on the floor? Well, 4 is bigger than 3, so there's more on the top row. More on the top, no need to stop. We can go ahead and do 4 minus 3. If I have 4, take away 1, 2, 3, I'm left with 1. So there's going to be a 1 in the tens place there. Next, we're going to do 7, take away 2. If I have 7, we can take away 2. There's no need to stop because there's more on top. That gives us 5. And then 6 minus 2, more on top, no need to stop. 6, take away 2 is 4. So I've got 4,510 as my answer. Okay, that is my difference because we subtracted. We didn't have to regroup. We didn't have to borrow because all the numbers were bigger on top, so there was no need to stop. All right, we only need to regroup. We only need to borrow if there's more on the floor. So let's look at one where there is more on the floor. What I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, and I want you to go get a piece of paper and a pencil, and I want you to write this problem down. I want us to walk through this together, and that way we can learn together how to subtract this number. So put 8,313 on top because it's the big number, minus 3,463. Line up your ones, your tens, your hundreds, your commas, and your thousands, and then we're going to subtract. So go ahead and pause this, get that on paper, and then click play when you're ready to go. All right, let's subtract. 3 minus 3. If the numbers are the same, 0 is the game. So 3 minus 3 is 0. We didn't have to regroup there. We just subtracted. Now we have 1 minus 6. We need to ask ourselves, is there more on top here or more on the floor? Well, which one's bigger, 1 or 6? 6 is bigger, so there's more on the floor. So I'm going to have to go next door. My 1's going to have to go next door to the 3. Knock and see if there's anybody home. The 3 is going to let us borrow 1. So the 3 is going to get crossed out, and we're going to take 1 from the 3, make him a 2, and take the 1 we took from the 3 and give it to the 1 to make it an 11, okay? Once we have an 11, now there's more on top, no need to stop. So I took 1 from the 3, made it a 2, the next door neighbor, I went and knocked. 3 became a 2 and gave us 1, and we put that 1 in front of the other one and made 11. So make sure you crossed out those numbers that we are no longer using because you need to know what numbers you're subtracting from or your answer is going to be wrong. So I have 11 minus 6. If I put 6 in my head and count up to 11, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, my answer for my tens column is going to be 5. Next, we're going to do 2 minus 4. Is there more on top or is there more on the floor? You have to ask that question every single place. More on top or more on the floor? There's more on the floor. 4 is bigger than 2. So we've got to go next door. The 2 is going to go next door to the 8. Is there anybody home? Yes. The 8 is going to give 1 to the 2 to become a 12. But in order for the 8 to share, to give that 1, we have to take that 1 from somewhere. That 1 has to come from somewhere. The 1 is going to come from the 8. And if I take 1 from 8, it becomes a 7. And this becomes a 12. So I took 1 from the 8, making him a 7, and put that 1 in front of the 2 to make it now 12. So now we can do 12 minus 4. If I put 4 in my head and count up to 12, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, my answer is 8. And then we're going to drop the comma straight down, and we're going to also subtract the thousands place. 7 minus 3, more on top, no need to stop. 7, take away 1, 2, 3, would give us 4. So my answer is 4,850. Now, I want to talk to you about what happens if I have a number that has zeros. This is where it gets really tricky. There's a lot of steps. We're going to walk through it together, okay? So the thing to remember about zeros, if there are zeros on top, we cannot subtract. We can't just do 0 minus 5 equals 5. It doesn't. That does not work. Look at me. It doesn't work. It has to be more on top. And 0 is the smallest number. For some reason, a lot of third graders get it in their head that you can just do 0 minus 5 is 5, 0 minus 3 is 3, 0 minus 2 is 2, 5 minus 3 is 2. So the answer would be 2,235. Nope, that's not the answer. That would be wrong. That's an example of you doing it in your head and getting it wrong. So write this on paper We're going to walk through all the steps together, okay? So first, let's start in the ones place. Is there more on top or more on the floor? There is more on the floor. 5 is bigger than 0. I would rather have $5 than $0 any day. So 5 is more, okay? So since there's more on the floor, we have to go next door. So the ones is going to go next door to the tens. There's nobody home. There's a 0 there. So the tens tells the one, hold on, I'm going to go to my next door neighbor, the hundreds, and see if he has any. So the tens goes down the hallway to the hundreds place, and he knocks on the door. The hundreds place doesn't have any either. It's a 0 too. So the hundreds place tells the tens place, hold on, I'm going to go next door to my neighbor, the thousands place, and see if he has any for me to borrow. So the hundreds goes next door to the thousands place. Finally, there's somebody at home. There's a 5 there. You know what we can do with that 5? We can take one from him to give to the hundreds place. Remember, the one you take from that place has to go next door. It can't go all the way down to the ones. It goes next door. So we're going to mark out the 4. Whoops. Don't know why I did that. Okay. It's going to mark out the 4. And it's mark out the 5, make it a 4, and give that 1 to the 0 right beside of it in the hundreds place, okay? So we took the 1 from the 5, made it a 4, gave it to the hundreds place, and made the 0 into a 10. Now, the hundreds place looks over to the tens place and says, I'm going to share 1 with you. So we're going to mark out the 10, make it a 9, and give 1 to the tens place. So stick with me here, okay? Just to recap what we did. We couldn't borrow any from the 0, so we went down to the 5. We took 1 from the 5, made it a 4, gave that 1 to the 0 in the hundreds place, made it a 10. Now we can take 1 from the 10, make it a 9, and give that 1 to the tens place to make that 0 into a 10. And now the 10 in the tens place can take 1 away from himself and give it to the ones place. So now we're going to take 1 from the 10, make him a 9, and make this 0 into a 10. It's a lot. So what we did, we could not subtract 0 minus 5. So we went next door. There was a 0. We went next door again. There was another 0. The hundreds place went next door to the 5. The 5 is home. We took 1 from the 5, gave it to the hundreds place because you can only give it to the next door neighbor. He became a 10. The 0 did. Then we decided to take 1 from the 10, make him a 9, give it to this 0 to make him a 10. We took 1 from him, made him a 9, gave 1 to this 0 to make him a 10, so now we can subtract. The problem is that we are done. That's not a problem. That's awesome. Look at Miss Weaver. Do not ever take away 1 from the ones place. You never borrow from the ones place because there's nowhere for the ones to give that answer to, okay? So now we're going to subtract 10 minus 5, and I forgot to mark out that 0, but I would mark out that 0 in real life. 10 minus 5 is 5. Now we're going to do 9 minus 3, which is 6. 9 minus 2, 7. 4 minus 3 is 1. So that is how you subtract across zeros. I did an entire video on how to subtract across zeros because I know it's confusing, and I want you to go watch that video, and I want you to watch the other video about subtracting 4-digit numbers because you are going to need it because it gets a little confusing, okay? Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck, guys.